Hello, everyone, and welcome to the What's New with Summon and 360 and Intota Services webinar. I'm Brent Cook, Director of Product Management for Summon. You've probably seen me on listservs in previous webinars, and I look forward to our conversation today. Please, as Scott mentioned, submit any questions you have, so this can be a conversation. I can answer any questions you have at the end of the session. We've got a lot to cover today. We'll take some time to review our accomplishments for 2021. It was certainly a busy year, and there was a lot of new functionality that was built and added to the product last year. We'll take a look ahead, particularly at the February release, and what you can expect from that in the preview environment. We'll talk a little bit about the roadmap and what we have planned for that. We have a webinar coming up soon, so we'll talk about that as well, and other ways you can get involved in the community. I'll take a moment to review the changes we had at the end of last year for the support portal and chat. And as I mentioned, we'll finish up with any questions that you might have. But first, let's take a look back at 2021 and some of the accomplishments that we made last year. One of the top items on the Idea Exchange, and something that was a top item voted on by you in the new enhancement request system, or NERS. I'll talk more about NERS later and just how much of an impact it and the Idea Exchange had last year and will have this year on the roadmap. So thank you so much for your contribution. Last year in May, we added the ability to have two different facets appear in the refine your search area at the top of the facet pane if you would like to, and you can configure that. It's the ability to focus on physical or electronic items. As a reminder on how to configure that, because it does take a little bit of configuration, first, you need to go in and set up a backend process to do some indexing and prep your instance of Summon for the use of this feature. So what you'll need to do is go into your production version of Summon, the admin console, under Refine Your Search, which you can see it there at the bottom of that list of navigation items on the left-hand side in that red box. Click there. You'll find toward the bottom of the tile on the right-hand side, Physical Book Backend Processing. That's turned off by default. Turn that on. As always, remember to click Save, and then that will turn on that backend process. It will take one index process to complete in order for that to be activated, so that could take up to 7 days. Once that's done, you can turn on the facets in either preview or in the production environment. So if you want to check it out in preview beforehand, you can do that. All you do is go into that same area, and just below there, if you want to turn on the physical items, then turn that on there, the physical book filter enabled, turn that from default to custom and switch it to on. Same thing for the electronic books or ebooks. You'll find that just under it, turn that to on, click Save. Those facets will appear in the environment you selected within 5 minutes after enabled, or disappear within 5 minutes afterwards as well. So if you want to take a quick look and see what that looks like, I highly recommend it. We did make some improvements to how that functionality works after its release in May. So if you haven't had a look at it or turned it on in your environment since then, please take a look and let us know what you think. Last year, we did a lot of work on CR via Summon and integration there, allowing for better integration between those two systems. We'll continue that in 2022. For 2021, our focus was being able to log in using CAS, the ability to view availability and perform a variety of actions from the results page, including requests for items. Also, the addition of a My Library card page, so you can view library account information. That includes information about loans, requests, fines and fees, and other information. Another item that came to us courtesy of the NERS voting system was the ability to replace short URLs for the long URLs currently used in citations. If you're not familiar with what they used to look like, this is what a long URL used to look like. But a benefit of this extremely long URL is that within that information, all those various characters, there's encrypted data that allows the user to find the exact article that they were using previously, regardless of its source. So in other words, if you subscribe, if you get this article from a subscription to provider A, and I make a citation today, but then within this year, for some reason, you no longer subscribe to provider A, and instead you go with provider B, but they still have access, they provide access to that exact same article. If I come back after that change, I'll still be able to find that article. So that's a great benefit for this long URL. However, as you may know, if you add these to your citation page in your article, it can make for a very long set of citations. In fact, sometimes longer than your actual article. So to help with that, we have added the ability to shorten the URL. We've had the short URL available previously in the permalink on the results set. Now, both that permalink and in citations where URLs are used, it should be replaced with this nice short URL. All previous URLs will continue to be supported. The original encrypted URL you just saw, we used to use tinyURL, a third-party service for the permalink piece. And now the new goexlibris.link, all of those should work going forward. But again, moving forward, all of your citations should use this nice shorter convention. Another enhancement that came courtesy of NERS is the ability to display all links available for results. That was added as part of the December user interface improvement. You can now go in and configure as many results as you'd like, or excuse me, as many links as you'd like to appear, up to 25. Currently, that doesn't include open URL, but we will be adding that shortly to the display all links. And as you've hopefully seen already, those links can now be displayed in the right-hand side of the buttons for access to text. You just click on that right-hand side and it should expose all the various links that are available. We also made some improvements to did you mean or the corrected spelling functionality. In the past, if you did a search and you had a typo or a misspelling, like on this example, you've got biology misspelled, the way it previously worked is that you would type the search and you would get to the search results based off of the misspelling, and then in the just below there, you'd get a the did you mean biology link that you could then click on and execute a second search to correct that spelling. For items like this where it looks like it's very apparent that it's a misspelling, what we will now do is instead provide results for the corrected term and provide a link that allows you to break out or go back to your original misspelling if that happens to be the case. Because as we all know, particularly in technology, we like to take words and drop letters or make different spellings of them. So sometimes that misspelling is just a new brand name or something that may not have hit dictionary just yet. So if it's unsure that this is, or if the ambiguity is such that we aren't sure that it is a misspelling, we will display it in the previous format, which is search on the term and a link to go to a potential corrected spelling. We will continue to work on this and improve this, but this should match what users expect from working with most browsers and search engines, because this is the same way that those work today. We also did some improvements around Database Recommender. When we first launched Database Recommender years ago, we only had a couple hundred databases to manage through Database Recommender. And if you're not familiar with the feature, Database Recommender is a tag-based system that allows you to display recommended resources, specific databases at the top of your results list for users who might want to go directly to the source. We know that someone can bring a lot of information to the end user, but sometimes it's best to just go straight to the source, and Database Recommender helps direct them there. As I mentioned in the past, it was only a few hundred databases. These days we have thousands of databases to manage, and so we need a much better way to manage those. So we now have a bulk management tool for Database Recommender. You'll find that under Recommender Databases. So if you navigate to there within the admin console, you'll see the screen like this. In the upper left-hand corner, you've got the Show CSV Import/Export options. If you click on that, that will refresh the page to give you instructions and a button there that says Export Databases to CSV. That'll give you a comma-delimited file that you can open in your favorite spreadsheet editor. You can go into there and make any changes that you like. There's instructions, as I mentioned, right there on the page to show you. Once you download that spreadsheet, it will look something like this. And again, you can make changes in the spreadsheet, upload it to the system, and it will automatically insert those changes. You can do things like change something from being included or excluded within Database Recommender. So if you want it to display in Database Recommender, you set this to true. If you don't want it to appear, you set it to false. You can also add priority. This is a new bit of functionality as part of this update. Previously, we would just go based off of the potential tag matches that you might have. And if there were more than one, we would just pull one of the three at random. Now you can set a priority. If you do not set a priority, it will continue to behave as it always has. If there are multiple databases recommended and one of them has a priority, whichever one has the highest priority will be displayed first, and then all others will be using the same type of prioritization we've used in the past. You can also add as many institutional tags as you'd like, one per column, and that makes it a lot easier to go through and edit that work. I should note that community tags is not shown as part of this. Those you'll need to go in and look at individually. If you're not familiar with community tags, basically if multiple institutions enter the same tag for a specific database, we assume that that's a good tag for that database, and we make it available for all Summon customers. We also added a lot of additional fields to the advanced search page and the ability to do an exact search in these fields. Again, this was a top thing on the Idea Exchange and voted on by you in the NERS process last year to include this in the roadmap. We've added a variety of fields, including all these on the screen that you see here, things like call number, ISBN, DOI, patent number, ORCID, PCID, PMID. All of these are available now as part of the advanced search. If you want these to show up in your advanced search page, you do need to go in and modify that or activate those, in the admin console. Something else to note is that with all of these functions or all these fields now added to that part of the form, we have removed the select all option for that field. So in the past, you could just click and have it automatically select all of these various fields and have them search them automatically. You can still do that. You just need to go through and check each one of them individually. If you were to set all of these as searchable, that would not be a very productive search because these have different requirements for what you would want from a number out of them or an entry, and it would result in a much slower response time. So if a user truly does want to search all these, they can. They'll just need to go in and select one each individual. In addition to the all links, we're also the benefit of a larger CDI project, which is quick links, and that is the ability to get to the full text in one click. This is a pilot program with a handful of providers at this time, and we're working on expanding that. Basically, it's the idea that we want to get the user to the content as quickly as possible. So it is working with providers to identify the best either PDF or full HTML text link to provide to the end user, making sure that's in place, and then putting that front and center in the results that the user is looking at. Which brings us to the new Summon experience. One of the biggest things we had in 2021 was to refresh the user interface with optimized usability. So I want to take a moment to talk about what that means and by walking us through a little bit of the past of Summon and what we've done over the years to improve the user interface. Putting together these screen grabs was certainly a trip down memory lane. Here you can see the original version of Summon when it was launched in 2009. You can see on the left-hand side, we got checkboxes for the various facets. The preview pane appears over on a hover, and a lot of the functionality that you're used to in Summon isn't quite there yet, but it's a nice beginning. In 2013, we upgraded to Summon 2.0. Making the user interface a little more modern to match the times, adding a lot of functionality into the facet pane and making that a little more interactive, and the ability to see the preview on the right-hand side so you can start to see all the great functionality we have here today, including Topic Explorer was in there as well. In 2016, we did a polishing up of Summon 2.0 with some improvements in a variety of areas, including the facet pane. We added the ability to exclude, and that was when we created the more facet pane to be able to better interact with all of the functionality you had within that pane. There was a new toolbar added with only a few icons at that time, with things like cite, save, email, and more action icons in the results set, and the ability to set or have preset date ranges for the date picker, making that a little bit easier. Excuse me. Which brings us to 2020. And this is a before picture of the Summon user interface. The reason why I want to show this is that this screen shows you just exactly how much functionality has been added over the years. As you can see here on the screen, if you look at that first result, underneath the icon for the content, you can see a peer-reviewed and open access icon. The open access facet was added, as well as these indicators. All the links along the bottom of the page there, you can see preview now appears below the piece inline, and you can click on it to have it stay open. There's a direct link to PDF from Unpaywall. Citation trails available there now with cites and cited by. Related articles is BX, so if you have that product, you can add that to the mix. You also see the Web of Science and the altmetrics donut there to provide a little bit more information on how this might be used or cited. On the right-hand side, you've got some custom panels there. So a lot of functionality we've added throughout the page. And one of the challenges, or one of the things that we were looking at improving in 2021 was to take all of this functionality that we've added over the years, piece by piece, and make sure that it all works well together. And that brings us to the new Summon experience. Hopefully you've had some chances to play around with this now. It's been out there for about a month and try out the functionality. Biggest change really is on the left-hand side there with the facet pane. You now have all of the functionality in that primary pane. If you remember, before you had the more pane, where if you had more than 4 items or values under a facet, there'd be a more link that you could click on. That would expand a second pane, and in that second pane would be the only place where you could do excludes, and you could apply a variety of facets at once, and click the apply button. When we did user testing with that, we saw that a lot of people didn't even know it existed, or if it did, if they did, when they used it, there were some problematic issues like forgetting to click the apply button, or not having that apply button be very available in or easily accessible within mobile. So we took a look at that, and now everything is right there in the primary pane. You can do an include or exclude. You can scroll to see all of the various values under a facet, or you can filter the list by simply typing in a little bit to make it a much shorter list if you're looking for something specifically. We also did a lot to reorganize the result itself. As you can see, a lot of the indicators are now on the right-hand side. You can see the online indicator there on the right-hand side, along with peer-reviewed and open access. We will be making some improvements there. I'll talk about that when I talk about the February release in a moment. But overall, it's a much cleaner user interface. We've rounded the edges, made it look a little more modern, and hopefully a lot more functional. So now I'd like to focus in a little bit on 360 and Intota services and some of the highlights of things we did in 2021. One big thing that we did was to look at our compliance for accessibility. And I should mention that for Summon, we do the same as well. For all of our releases, we test them for accessibility, and we do overall analysis of the product. For EJP, 360 Link, and 360 Core, we did a deep dive to make sure that we were level A compliance with WCAG. Another thing we worked on in 2021 was the rollout of Counter R5 reports. We added the option to search for videos only in the electronic journal portal, or EJP. We added some enhancements to the 360 Link ILL form. We added the ability to display most recent coverage option in EJP. You can now upload the database details report. We added a new API for 360 that allows you to export library holdings. We've improved the overlap analysis results. You can now separate those by format. So if you want to focus in on just video content, for example, you can now just download that, or you can do it as you have in the past and have all formats in a single report. And then finally, you can now export view changes for anything that's done in client-side. So that wraps up a review of 2021. There was a lot more that we did. It was a very busy year, but now it's time to look forward and what we have planned for this year. In particular, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the February release for both Summon and for 360 Intota and Client Center Services. For the February release, we do have a shorter preview window this time around. It's going to be 1 week long. It will start a week from now on January 26th, with the release date being on the first Wednesday, February 2nd. that preview window. Usually it's 2 weeks, and we will have it be at least 2 weeks for the remainder of the year. But we shortened it to a week this year, so we get as much as we possibly could in based on your feedback that we got in December for the user interface changes. So our focus here really is about how can we get as many of those fixes and improvements in place. And I want to take a moment to just talk about some of those new improvements. We have a variety of things, such as a variety of translations that we've improved. There were a few new labels that were missing values from the translations tab. Those have been added now, so you can go in and customize or translate those if you'd like or need to. Some of the facet values, in the past, you've been able to customize the values themselves under a specific facet. Those were not being respected as with the new user interface, and we've improved that and fixed that so that those should now be displayed in the facet pane. We also added the ability to see availability for a variety of items in your instance of summon. And for things that had multiple copies, we use the convention of X for times or copies, as in 5X copies available. We've now put that X into, we've made it copies instead of X, and we've added this to the translation tab so that, again, you can change it to whatever you'd like. If you did prefer 5X, you could change it back to X, or you could change it to whatever you'd like. We've also, for Summon over Alma clients, changed the default text for Alma provider, which some of you have seen associated with content or links in your instance of Summon, to library catalog. That will be the new default text. And as is a theme with this section, if you decide you don't like library catalog, it will be under translation so that you can customize that to whatever you'd like. We're also taking some time to work on some integration improvements. There were some issues with the integrations with Talus bookmarking. That's been addressed and will be included as part of the February release. We addressed an issue with the CRVS summon reading history, returning an error, and we improved the availability response display for Sierra. It was timing out, and there needs to be some issues addressed there, and we've made those improvements as well. We've also done some other improvements for the user interface. We've added the ability to customize the colors for the new elements in the facet pane. So at the top of the facet, you now have the visual indicator for what's been selected, and then you have the visual indicator at the level of the value itself. Those colors were added. Also the exclude color and the background color for hover on the various facets. Those will now be customizable as part of the February release. You also have the ability to turn on or off a toggle for the admin console for more links. Currently, you can turn that off by setting it to 0, but this was not intuitive for folks, so we've added a toggle, so it's just really easy to just turn that on and off if you want to have just one link shown, or have it be more like what you see in Summon prior to the user interface. So if you want to turn that off, that will be available. We've also addressed issues with inconsistency display of availability green dot. You can see that right there. We've taken it from the upper right-hand corner where peer-reviewed and open access was. It would appear there as well as on the link itself. We've now made that consistent and put the green dot where we want people to click and go to. And then finally, for those who, when you move into mobile, if you have Topic Explorer exposed, if you, when the screen gets small enough, you will get this small little indicator that Topic Explorer is there. We don't want Topic Explorer to take over the entire mobile interface, so you have the ability to expand it, and it starts off collapsed. For institutions who had Topic Explorer turned off with the UI changes, this toggle would appear in their mobile version. Clicking on it would do nothing. It would just change it from expand to collapse, but because Topic Explorer wasn't turned on, it wouldn't show up. This has been fixed so that that will no longer appear on mobile interfaces where Topic Explorer is turned off. We've also got some great things planned for 360 and Intota services for February. We are updating the EJP autocomplete feature so that that will now only suggest items that are tracked resources, so no longer suggesting things that your patron might not have access to. We've extended the display time for the pop-up for ILL form submission and 360 link to give a person more time to enter information there. We've added a variety of DOI lookup enhancements. We continue to work on improvements for the sushi harvester, for refinements for R5 reports. We have now made it so that the video only search filter does not appear if the videos only search option is disabled. Previously, that would still appear even if you have that disabled. We've now prioritized cross-ref metadata over PubMed metadata, regardless of the genre parameter. And finally, with view changes, we've added some more to that. It will now include holdings URL replacement events, as well as the other information that was in there previously. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the roadmap for 2022. In a couple of weeks, we will have a webinar to announce and share that with you and go over the details. But for today, I just want to talk about where it stands and what we have planned. First off is the planned release dates and the preview environment for each of the quarterly releases, which is a reminder, those are the major releases we do, one a quarter. Those include release notes and a preview period for each release. As I said, it's usually 2 weeks. However, for February, we have it a little bit shorter. So February 2nd is the first quarterly release with the preview starting January 26th in a week. May 11th is the next one coming up with the preview, and April 27th. And I should note, all of these appear on the first Wednesday of the month, with the exception of May. That usually comes on the second Wednesday to accommodate Luna, which back in the day when we met in person was that first week in May. And we still have a lot of activities coming up for that in May this year as well. So that will be, again, the May releases of the 11th with the preview starting on April 27th. August 3rd is the next one. We likely will have the UI changes that we have planned for 2022 in the August 3rd release. If that's the case, I will work on extending that preview environment timeline. Currently, a 2-week period would be July 20th. We had such a great success in extending the timeline or the preview window for December and allowed us to get your feedback on the user interface and make changes prior to pushing to production. We'll work to do that same type of structure in August. And again, I'll give you an update on that in the webinar in a couple of weeks when we talk about the final plan for the roadmap and release dates. And then November 2nd would be the last quarterly release of this year, with a preview appearing in October 19th. On months where there isn't a quarterly release, we do have maintenance releases on the first Wednesday of those months. There is no preview for those types of releases. The exception might be if we had some type of customer-facing functionality that we needed to include, although for the most part, we keep those to the quarterly releases. Also, for those releases, there are no release notes because, again, a lot of it is maintenance, internal changes, specific customer changes, and things like that, and not things that either you or your patrons might see. So there's no release notes for those maintenance releases. Again, the exception is if we do happen to release some customer or patron-facing functionality, I will send out a note based on that. And we will post release notes to the Knowledge Center. So what do we have planned for 2022? Again, I will work on sharing the specifics with you in the next few weeks. The few things to note right now is that we will continue improvements from 2021 into 2022. With CRVS Summon, there's still some work to do there, and we're adding SAML support for that this year, or that is the plan. Again, I'll announce the details in a few weeks. Working on authentication improvements, so that's the SAML piece, as well as making that so that even when we do it for Sierra, that we'll eventually be able to extend that beyond just Sierra and Summon integration. We'll continue the user experience improvements. We did a lot of work on the brief result on the result page and the facet pane. We did not work on the preview pane, advanced search, and catalog detail pages. So we'll be taking a look at those, and we'll be taking a look at including feedback from you from the December release that was good feedback, but not necessarily related to the changes that we made. So we'll, like for example, we got some really good feedback on how to improve the advanced search page, and we'll fold that into the process as well. We've also got a variety of NERS top candidates that we'll include, and I'll share all the details of this in February. But for now, just to note, and these are not all of them, these are just the top selection of candidates from NERS. We're in the process of sizing and scoping these and working with the Illuna and Igloo committee for NERS to finalize the list of what will be included in 2022. So the above list is not final and may change based on complexity points and feasibility, but these are the top ones you voted on for inclusion this year. So next I want to talk a little bit about upcoming webinars and community engagement. As I've mentioned a couple of times, we've got that roadmap overview coming up. That's on February 9th and 10th. Hopefully there's a time there that you see that you can attend and makes sense for you. Even if you can't attend one of those times, I recommend that you sign up for one of them. That will ensure that you get an email with a recording, a link to a recording for you to view if you can't make it at that time. I also want to highlight that we've got a variety of user group activities out there that Aluna and Igloo are putting together for us. Aluna, those online sessions are scheduled for May. In Igloo, we're working on a hybrid event scheduled in September. Again, those are organizations that you can get involved in and really help shape and guide the product. And so what does that mean when I say that? So you have an impact. Aluna and Igloo are important components to the development of Summon as a product. I really value the time and energy that people put into those organizations, and it's a direct pipeline to put feedback into the product, and I greatly appreciate that. And a great example are the new enhancement request system, or NERS items that are on the roadmap. What you see here are all the items from last year that made it onto the roadmap because of your votes. So making best bets show up when tag keywords for president in search, not just exact matches. The all links display was part of NERS. The shortened URL was part of NERS. The link to all full text options within summary results, that was part of the NERS voting. Automatically searching for the corrected spelling, the exact search for certain fields, adding ORCID to advanced search, and providing full text links to the PDF and the first result page itself. All of those were things that you voted on last year and made happen on the roadmap. In addition, if you're not a member of Igloo and Aluna, you should still be participating in the idea exchange. Many, if not all of those items on the previous page were pulled from the idea exchange for voting on. And you don't have to have something voted on in NERS in order for it to get developed from the idea exchange. A variety of things that we completed in 2021 that were idea exchange suggestions include that database recommender management tool, both the tag export feature and the ability to prioritize things. Making view changes in Client Center exportable, that was something that was on the idea exchange. The visual indicator for publication date filter presets. In the past, if you selected one of the presets, there was no good visual indicator to show that you had set that. The slider would adjust so that you could see that if you set like a year, 2 years, 5 years, and that wasn't very visible. We improved that with the new facet changes. Make all availability visible. That was something we added as well. And then the exclude a facet value, bringing that forward into the facet pane. That certainly helped direct some of our changes in the facet pane. And again, making that apply button work better on mobile screens. If you want to go out and see what ideas are out there and vote on them or add your own, I just went back last night and updated the idea exchange based on the December release. So if I did update things and close them, that means that whatever votes you had associated with those are now free to be applied to something else. So go out and take a look and vote on things you think are important or add some new ideas to the idea exchange. Next, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the support center that we made available starting at the end of last year. You can access that today at https://support.proquest.com. We will provide this PowerPoint afterwards. You'll see a few URLs, and of course you saw the webinar information there. We'll make sure that these are available to you afterwards, so don't worry about jotting these things down if you don't want to. It will be in the presentation afterwards. But if you go to the support page, there's a lot you can do there. You can log in to view current status on various issues that you have or add a new item. You can easily submit a case by clicking on the submit a case link there at the top in the nav bar. You can drill down to specific products to find support on those, including various articles or information that you might need to help you out with those products. You can also do a search to find out if there's any information or articles to help you resolve any issues that you might have. And then finally, Chat is still available. There are great hours for both EMEA and North America to be able to chat directly with ProQuest or Ex Libris support. So you can still go in there and get some good feedback or direct interaction for items that can be quickly resolved. For content issues, that usually isn't something that can be resolved over chat, but you can certainly chat with them about that and get that started. Most other issues, a lot of times we can get resolved right there in the moment. So what will you find if you go to the support center? It's the idea here is to provide a single portal for all support needs for both ProQuest and Ex Libris products. If you go to our old URL, it will redirect to this new URL. So if you don't have that new URL down just yet, no worries, you can get redirected from the old URL. You can create your own customized case lists to make things easier for you to find. The case statuses are clear, so if something's waiting for your input, it's easier for you to see and provide information for. They're now collaborative knowledge sharing groups. And again, you can get knowledge articles of previous cases as you search for or submit a case. If you want to know more about this, we did create a new support center knowledge article that contains a lot of information there around that. If you have any questions or if you need help creating a trouble ticket or getting something started, feel free to email us at proquest-support@proquest.com or exlibris-support@exlibrisgroup.com. If you are having any issues or have any questions, feel free to email those and someone will get back to you as quickly as possible. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for your participation in this webinar, in Summon listservs, in the NERS and ID Exchange. It's your contribution and your input that really helps shape and guide the product, and I greatly appreciate that effort. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, my email is there on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me or reach out to me on the listserv. If you have a specific issue that you need resolved within your instance of Summon, try out that chat or support portal. That's going to be your fastest way to get resolution. But I'm always happy to help in any way that I can. Finally, I'd just like to say thanks so much for taking your time today to attend. And please be safe and be careful out there, and look forward to the next time I see you in either a webinar or in person.